What the fuck is up, everyone? Prison Miller here, back with another Reviewing Every Album series. Today, I am reviewing Pantera. Yeah, I feel like let's go back to the classics for a bit, and while I stay consistent here while I'm working on Lacuna Coil. Sorry, that was my cat. Anyway, as we know, Pantera, one of the legendary metal bands out there. Dimebag Darrell, as we know. Pantera that is named after a fucking panther. So, yeah, guys, as you know how I do this, I rate from 0 out of 5 being the worst, 5 out of 5 being the best. I'm gonna let you guys know I'm not reviewing EPs, compilations, demos, or any live albums, just the full-length studio albums only. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and begin. Alright, starting up, we got is Metal Magic, released June 10th, 1983, off of Metal Magic Records. Now, as you may know, Pantera was originally a glam band until they leaned forward towards the thrash, groove, sound to it. And, as we know, the album is heavily influenced by Kiss and Van Halen and such. Starts off with, Terry Glaze, the original vocalist for Pantera. I don't know how to start this, so according to Vinnie Paul, the album sold 5,000 copies by 1990, and I'll say it's a start, but I'll say this, I think this is Pantera's worst album. But since this is a debut album, I'm not going to go too harsh on it. And even if it wasn't, I still wouldn't go too harsh on it. I mean, I'll say this, production sucks, to be honest. But songwriting's kind of generic. I mean, for the most part, most of the songs kind of sound the same-ish, and I'm just kind of bored. Now, my pros on this album, I mean, some solos are nice by Dimebag Darrell. I mean, it's got some decent solos. Tell Me If You Want It is kind of catchy as well. But other than that, I mean, the album is just a very dull record, very mediocre, and it's kind of bad at times. But yeah, I'll go for 2 to 5. No, no. What about 1 point? No, I'll go for 2 to 5. Yeah, 2 to 5. I mean, the album is kind of bad, but I wouldn't say it's bad enough for me to rate it lower. So the highest rating I can give for this album would be a 2 to 5. So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of bad, but it's not that bad, if you know what I mean. I mean, I know many people say it's a bad album, and I can see why. Production is very muddy, and yeah, I just not a fan. I don't really see myself coming back to it. Alright, next up we got is Projects in the Jungle, released July 27, 1984, off of Metal Magic Records. I'll say it's an improvement, that's for sure. Again, this continues off with the glam metal sound, and the production is very much improved, but there are some problems I have with this album. First of all, it kind of has this warness, mainly from Dimebag's guitar sound. Kind of sounds pretty loud at times, so I'll give it that. Same with Terry's vocals. I mean, the album started off pretty strong, like All Over Tonight. It's kind of a strong, catchy sound to it. But as for the songwriting, kind of the same, but just more improved, that's all. I mean, Blue Light Turning Red kind of sounds like a Eddie Van Halen guitar sound to it, with his eruption sound to it. And, yeah, again, it's another glam album. I mean, it sounds more like Def Leppard a bit at times, to tell you the truth, with a lot of influences. It's got a heavy influence from Judas Priest as well. But, other than that, it's alright. I mean, again, I'm not a fan of their glam metal era, their glam era, to be honest with you. I mean, this is not what I start off to. I mean, I'm sure Pantera fans did not start off with this album. I mean, I wouldn't start off with would I recommend this album? Not really. I kind of would recommend it to soccer moms, really. But other than that, it's alright. It's fine. I mean, I wouldn't say it's bad or anything. So, yeah, it's just I'll say it's an inspired album, like from Van Halen, Def Leppard, and such. So, I'll go for 2.5 to 5. It's okay. I mean, would I come back to it? Maybe at times, but it's an alright record. I mean, it's not terrible or anything, but it's not great. But But yeah, I mean, I don't really listen to glam metal, guys. To be honest with you, glam metal is just really not my thing. There's some glam bands I may like early Motley Crue or Def Leppard or such, and early Bon Jovi. So there's that. Alrighty, next up we got is I Am the Night, released August 16, 1985. Again, off of Metal Magic Records. As we know, this is the band's final album with Terry Glaze on vocals. Now, I'll say this. My opinion is kind of the same with Projects in the Jungle, to be honest with you. Hot and Heavy started off strong and pretty catchy. I mean, there were some catchy songs here and there, but again, not a fan of their glam stuff, so yeah, I mean, again, it's got some nice solos from Dimebag Darrell. I mean, Dimebag Goes to the Movies is pretty much an interlude for this solos, just like what Eddie Van Halen did with Eruption from Van Halen's first album. Yeah, I mean, again, it's okay. I don't really know what else to say. It's just another glam album. I mean, Hot and Heavy's a pretty decent song, I guess. I mean, well, it's an opening track. Duh. But yeah, I don't really want to review much. I mean, all I can say is this is the last album with Terry Glaze on vocals. This album is pretty much no different. I mean, the production is good. Songwriting, again, it's kind of generic at times, but yeah, I don't know what else to say. I mean, no different. Kind of the same as their last album, so I would go for a 2.5 out of 5 as well. I recommended the Soccer Moms again, so yeah. Again, I'll say what I read is this sold 25 copies, which is pretty much sold more than their previous albums. So I guess Pantera at the time, while they were underground in the 80s, they started growing more and more and more. And what I read that around that time, I think James Hetfield from Metallica visited Dimebag Darrell's house from what I've known. So the band is starting to grow a lot since then. So yeah, that's all I have to say about it. Sorry, not a good review. It's just pretty much the same thoughts as their last album, I guess. Alrighty, next up we got is Power Metal, released June 24, 1988. Dumbass. Again, off of Metal Magic Records, and this album had some changes, most notably because this is the band's first album with Phil Anselmo on vocals, replacing Terry Glaze, and he's been that vocalist. They kept that vocalist for the band's rest of their career until their breakup in 2003. Now, from what I've read, tensions arose between Terry Glaze, and he was given a 2-week notice, so I don't know if he got fired or something like that. But yeah, the band kind of struggled around that time. I think they were trying to find a new singer for almost a year until, from what I read, Phil Anselmo was met on the road. They step in. So, yeah, I guess that's how it happened. So, yeah, as for the writing, from what I've read, Proud to Be Loud was originally written by Keel, which they are a glam band. So, yeah. As for, some of the lyrics in the song were originally by Terry Glaze, but Phil Anselmo rewrote it on some occasions. Now, that's what I say about this album. Yeah, they still kept their glam style. This album is heavily influenced by Judas Priest, and I have to say the production is more top-notch. So, yeah, that's pretty much, I have to say there's some really quite hidden gem songs. I really love the song We'll Meet Again. It's very catchy. Rock the World is great. I love power metal. But yeah, guys, again, this is their first album with Phil Anselmo on vocals. So yeah, I don't know what else to say. I definitely enjoyed it from start to finish, so, for the most part. So, I'll go for a 3.5 out of 5. I think it's a major step up. I think Phil is a better choice, for sure, as far as I know of. So, yeah, I guess this is probably the album that caused him to grow a bit more than it has been. So, there is that. Okay, next up we got is Cowboys from Hell, released July 24, 1990, off of Atco Records. Now, as you know, there's a much changer sound to it. This album completely abandoned the glam metal sound to more of their thrashy groove type sound to it. As we know, the band wanted to go much of a heavier style to it, as we know, with influential bands such as Metallica, Slayer, Megadeth, Anthrax, Testament, and Exodus. They want to have a much more heavier sound, as you may know. They're back then. Their record label pressured them to make a much more softer sound, which Vinnie Paul refuses to do. So they moved to a different record label to have that sound. And as we know, throughout the time, the album was recorded around 1980 to 1990. So as we know, a lot of people starting to get some attentions from Pantera's album Power Metal and recommending. So they got signed to the record to make this album. And as we know, throughout this album, it's got much better production. Terry Date is the producer for this album and made it sound much better. The songwriting is definitely a major improvement. It's got much heavier sound. You got massive double bass drum performance from Vinnie Paul. And I have to say, this album has Phil's best vocal range by far. Especially with the song Cemetery Gates. By far one of Pantera's most melodic tracks ever. Dimebag Darrell has massive chugging riffs, especially with the standard guitar tuning that is considered as a groove metal type sound, even though it was very heavy sound for a standard guitar tuning to it, with such songs such as Domination with this hard head banging breakdown. We got, as you may know, the classic song Cowboys from Hell, massive guttural sludge riffs from Primal Concrete Sledge and Heresy, Cycle Holiday, and we got some more of his melodic tracks too, like The Sleep, and again with Cemetery Gates. Definitely one of my favorite songs of all time. And I don't know what else to say, guys. This is definitely a metal classic for sure. I absolutely love this album from start to finish. Definitely an influential album. Definitely a pioneer album to a groove metal sound to it. And it definitely changed metal a whole lot. But yeah, it's definitely a very defined accessional album for sure. Not just a groove metal album, but metal in general. So I don't know what to say, guys. So I am giving this a 4.5 out of 5. I think this is an amazing record. Definitely a massive change, much improved change, much better produced, much better songwriting. I have to say this is Phil's best vocal performance, not just in Pantera, but in any other albums he's involved in. I think this is his much better improved vocal, since he kind of sounds like Rob Halford a bit. So yeah, I think I think this album is flat out amazing. I think it's incredible. So that's pretty much I have to say here. Alright, next up we got is Vulgar Display of Power, released February 25th, 1992, off of Echo Records. Now, guys, I think this is where we come to the part where I think, and I know many Pantera fans would agree with me on this, that this is their best album. Yes, by far their best album. As we know, this album is by far more aggressive than Cowboys from Hell. Believe me, by far more aggressive. A lot heavier songwriting. Phil's vocals are even more aggressive. Like, trust me, a lot more aggressive. And the band has really brought off something off the table here. Like, especially from Dimebag Darrell, I think he went down tune a notch a bit. I think it had detuning to it. Like, around that time, the band was open for Metallica while Metallica was touring for their Black album. And because all things with Metallica, Pantera went back to the studio to record this album. As we know, they don't want a more radio-friendly sound like they did like Metallica did with the Black album. They wanted to make it heavier, more aggressive. So, according to Vinnie Paul, from what I read in his interview, in his Q&A, he said when Metallica released their self-titled album, Pantera, he did not like their Black Album. Vinnie Paul did not like the Black Album because he thought that they abandoned the thrash sound. So in return, they want to fill up that gap and want to make the heaviest record they can make with this album. And they pretty much did it with certain songs, certain songs with a lot heavier tracks, with higher tempos, thrashier sounds like Fucking Hostile, Rise, and such. Mouthful War, especially with the outro. And then we got the iconic track, and probably their most overplayed song too, called Walk. By far their most popular song. It's a lot more simplistic song with the groovy shit to it. And then we got the ballad track, This Love, starts off with the ballad with the much more hard, heavy, fist-pumping breakdown. A new level of what's massive groove riffs from Dimebag Darrell. We got Rise again. Like, I pretty much love all the tracks. No Good, Attack the Radical, Live in the Hole. Oh, Live in the Hole with this like really heavy fist pumping to it. And then by Demons Be Driven with this. Oh man, Dimebag was a monster with the riffs to it, like, trust me. And then it starts off with by far the most melodic song in the album, called Hollow, which is easily the most melodic song on the album, but they still kept it heavy through the second half, and I just love how they close off the album. There is not one piece of filler I've heard in this album, you guys. Like there is not one piece of filler riff I heard from Vulgar Display of Power from Dimebag Darrell in this album. Not even one. Like, there is no filler tracks at all in this album. There is not one riff in this album that didn't make me come in my pants when I hear it. That's how incredibly perfect this album is. You know what? Fuck it. 5 out of 5. This is fucking perfect record. This is like one of the best metal records ever fucking made. Like, holy hell, this album is just fucking goddamn amazing. Now, I never really gave groove metal albums this perfect of a rating, and I have to say, this is the best groove metal album I have ever heard. So I may give, like, groove metal albums, like, at some occasions 4.5, but this one is a 5 out of 5, and as you may know, Pantera pretty much pioneered that genre, so there is that. Well, I mean, this is by far one of my favorite metal albums in the 90s. One of my favorite albums ever, by far. I mean, Vulgar Display of Power is, like, perfect from start to finish, you know? So, yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say here. This is by far my favorite Pantera album. This is easily Pantera's best album. By far easily one of the best albums ever, by far. So, I don't want to go on too much, because we have a few more albums to go. So, there we go. Okay, next up we got is Far Beyond Driven, released March 22nd, 1994. Off of Elektra Records. Now, following with the success of their last album, Vulgar Display of Power, as you may know, the album kind of pretty much starts to go into a much darker term, you know, like, around that time, Phil Anselmo had a ruptured disc in his back, and he's starting to have some chronic pains, and due to that, Phil starts drinking more. Became addicted to painkillers and muscle relaxation, as well as heroin to relieve the pain. Because of that, the band started using much more this half C sounding tuning, and there is a lot of lyrics that references beyond that. Like, as you may know, the song 25 Years is basically about Phil's deadbeat dad, abusive father. I mean, according to Phil on the song Straight Beyond Strength, according to Phil, he said, I was a rambunctious child. None of it is regrettable lyrically. You can look back at your lyrics and snicker. I always do, whether I'm embarrassed over it, or whether I'm embarrassed over it, or whether I'm embarrassed over it. You can tell growing spurts and pains and where you live in life. I don't know. Strength fucking beyond strength is the old puffing the chest up. Look at us now. We're as cute as fucking extreme. 5 Minutes Alone is basically Phil Anselmo's inspiration for an incident that happened at a live show. He said some kid in the Pantera crowd was talking shit to Anselmo and was then beat up by the fans. The guy's dad got pissed off at Phil, and he said he had told the crowd to give his son a beating and phoned the band's manager. He said to the manager he'd like to have 5 minutes alone with Phil Anselmo so he can whoop Phil's ass. That's basically what the song 5 Minutes Alone is. The song I'm Broken is basically about Phil's broken back. He has a massive pain in his lower back. Now, trust me, I felt the same way Phil has. I had a herniated disc I had back in 2018. And that he feels like he broke it, started having dark thoughts and such, that he became addicted to, like painkillers and such, drinking more. And from what I read, Hardline Sunken Cheeks is about the price you pay for taking drugs. As you may know, Phil at the time taking drugs surpasses the physical pain he felt every day. It's mainly about drug addicts, as you may know. So there is that. I think this album has a lot more of a darker turn to it. Now, all I say is it as good as Cowboys from Hell or Vulgar Display of Power? Absolutely not. But the band is still on top notch. Even though not quite as good, the band is still consistent and they're still on top notch. All I have to say is it's quite heavier. I mean, even though they refused to make it more radio friendly, the album got a whole lot of attention. They even got to the point where the album reached #1 on the Billboard charts. And this is the only album to do so. So as for that, I think it's a great album from start to finish. There's one con thing I would say about this album, and I would say it's probably their Black Sabbath cover, the closing track, Planet Caravan. I don't really think that's a good way to close the album, but I mean, I'm not really a cover guy, to be honest with you, but other than that, I think it's a really great album from start to finish, so I guess some people would say this is a metal classic too, so I would go for 4 to 5. I think it's a really great record from start to finish. I would definitely say it's pretty much of a classic as well. I say they're still on the roll here with the albums. Again, this is the classic era of Pantera, so there's that. Alright, next up we got is The Great Southern Trendkill, released May 7th, 1996, off of the Elektra Records. Now, this album got, again, once just like before, they got to a much heavier, aggressive start. The album got even darker. As you may know, this is Pantera's most aggressive album by far. It has a lot more harsh vocals than ever. Now, as you may know, around that time, Phil starts becoming addicted to drugs. Where it got much to a point where he almost died from it. And during around that time, Phil and the band members were not really in good terms, so it got to the point where the band members were separated during the making of this album. Phil recorded the vocals at Trent Reznor's studio in New Orleans, while the rest of the band members recorded at the Chase and Jason Studios in Texas, while Phil recorded his vocals in Louisiana. And this is the band's last album to be produced by Terry Date. So that's pretty much what caused the band to get a lot more aggressive. It has a lot more of a screech effect, like the songs such as The Great Southern Trendkill, Suicide Note Part 2, 13 Steps to Nowhere got some additional vocals from Seth Putman from Anal Cunt. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot more heavier, it's a lot more aggressive. The song Floods is definitely one of the more memorable songs. Easily one of the best Pantera tracks. It's got a really great solo from Dimebag as well. I really love the song Floods. What I read is the lyrical content is about an atrocious act committed by mankind, such as rape, murder, and war. Basically on the song called Floods. Again, the lyrical themes from the album in general includes drugs, a flood that ends mankind, finding deeper meaning, anger in the media, and that's pretty much for it. So, as for my thoughts of the album, I actually quite enjoy this album. Now, I think it's almost as good as Far Beyond Driven. Again, Dimebag Darrell's killing it with the riffs. I mean, besides for being their heaviest, it's got some of their softer tone as well from certain songs such as Tense and Floods are in Suicide Note Part 1, which is a full ballad track and a very dark one too. Like, okay, and as for the song Suicide Note, describes suicide attempts such as slashing on the wrist. Part 1 talks in particular about drug use, while Part 2 describes the determination of suicide by self-inflicted gunshot. So yeah, guys, by far the heaviest album. I think it's a really great album, so I'm also going to go for a 4 to 5. I think it's a really great album. I could say this is another classic by Pantera. Again, this classic era of Pantera. So, yeah, guys, there's that. Alright, guys, next up we got is Reinventing the Steel, released March 21st, 2000, off of the Elektra Records. This is the band's final album before their breakup. As you may know, this is their first album not to be produced since Power Metal to not be produced by Terry Date. However, there's a reissue version, the 20th anniversary edition, that does have product remixed by Terry Date. And as you may know, the lyrical themes of this album is basically about the band itself. Like, as for the song We'll Grind That Axe for a Long Time, where they talk about how they kept it true through their fans. They sucked up for fame. I'll Cast a Shadow is about Pantera's influence on the heavy metal genre, and songs such as Goddamn Electric, You Belong to It, mentions bands like Black Sabbath and Slayer as their influences. And by the way, the song Goddamn Electric has a solo performed by Kerry King from Slayer. And it was performed by Slayer at a bathroom after Slayer performed their show at Ozfest in Dallas at July 13, 1999. And according to the band members, Reinventing the Steel is basically a dedication to their fans and views it as their brothers and sisters. So, yeah, guys. Now, around this time when the album came out, the album got a bit less successful. As you know, around that time, the album came out in 2000. Around the time of metal, as you know, around the time new metal was big, with a lot more people pay attention to new metal bands such as Korn and Slipknot, and they pretty much pay a lot more attention to that than this album, since this album did not have any new metal elements at all. But I would say some people may consider this a return to roots from Cowboys from Hell and Vulgar Display of Power. I personally enjoy it. I mean, I still think the production still holds up well. The album pretty much holds up well. I kind of find it pretty much of a closing chapter to Pantera's trilogy. So, yeah, I actually think this is a pretty good album. Is it as strong as their last few albums? No, not really, but it kind of pretty much holds up well in the future, and some may consider this a classic. For me, not really. As for the groove metal era of Pantera, I would say this is their weakest in this classic era Pantera, so I would go for a 3.5 out of 5. A really good album, not quite as strong as the other albums such as Cowboys from Hell, Grand Southern Tranquil, and Vulgar Display of Power, but it's still a really good album after all. And it's kind of a shame to close off the album, since this is the final Pantera album with Dimebag Darrell and Vinnie Paul, as they both died. So there's that. You know what, guys? I'm going to add one more album in, and that would be Damage Plan's Newfound Power. Now, as you may know, I don't really include side projects when it comes to ranking bands, albums, and such, but I decided to make an exception for this one because this is the final album where the Abbott brothers perform together. I mean, I know there's another album called Rebel Meets Rebel, which I have zero interest in reviewing on, since it's a posthumous album and such, which I have zero interest on. So I decided to make an exception for this one because this is the last album where the Abbott brothers perform together, and this is the last album that Dimebag Darrell has ever made in his lifetime. As you may know, 10 months later, Dimebag Darrell was shot and killed at a show in Ohio. So, yeah, as you may know, Damage Plan as we know, the band's only studio album. It was formed by Dimebag Darrell, Vinnie Paul. Around late 2003, the band broke up because the Abbott brothers were not in good terms with Phil at all. Because around that time, Phil wanted to take a break from Pantera after they finished the tour in 2001. So the Abbott brothers made an agreement on it, and during their hiatus, Phil made a second Down album and a debut album from Superjoint Ritual. And turns out Dimebag and Vinny did not take this lightly at all. They kind of took it too personal with him. They decided to call him to confront about it, and Phil never answered any of the calls from Dimebag and Vinnie Paul. And basically around 2003, he said, Phil, are you going to come back to Pantera anytime soon? Because if not, we're just going to move on without you. So they went ahead and break up Pantera and start moving on to Damage Plan, and which caused some pretty much beef between Phil and the Abbott brothers. Like as we know, I think what I read about a week before Dimebag's death, I think Phil said something about Dimebag would easily be killed on stage or something like that, and then 1 week later, Dimebag Darrell was shot and killed, which very angered Vinnie Paul, so much, including his girlfriend. Like, it was so bad that they blamed Phil Anselmo for the murder of Dimebag Darrell. Like, I heard there was one rumor that Phil was accused of hiring a hitman to kill Dimebag Darrell, which turned out to be false. And, like, Vinnie Paul was extremely hurt that he refuses to talk to Phil Anselmo after this. Like, ever. Like, he does not want to speak to Phil Anselmo ever again because of all that. If Dimebag Darrell shot and lived, I'm pretty sure he would forgive Phil, since Dimebag was a very forgiving guy. And I think his girlfriend said if Phil showed up to their funeral, she would rip his head off and such. And I think a few years later, they squashed their beef. They become in good terms. Like, I think a few years ago when Pantera reformed without Dimebag Darrell's girlfriend, I think her name is Rita, she joined on stage along with Randy Blythe from Lamb of God. To form a song together. So, which is a pretty nice way. I kind of like how she decided to make amends with Phil. So, yeah, Phil instantly regretted on what he said. So, it's kind of a heartbreaking story, you know. And it's kind of sadder that Vinnie Paul never has the chance to make amends with Phil, as he died in 2018. So, which is kind of a sad story. And Rex Brown, from what I've read, Vinnie Paul will not speak to Rex Brown either, even though they did have some few words with each other after the death of Dimebag Darrell and stuff. They may have spoke a few times, but they just don't really seem to talk to each other as much. Now, besides all that, let's get to this album. Sorry for the long story. Now, with this album, I have to say it's fine. It's okay. I mean, I know it's not I know it's a complete different band now. I mean, I don't know what else to say here. I mean, this album has more of this new metal type soundish to it, even though they kept their groove metal sound like they did with Pantera. But, I mean, it's not a bad record overall. It's just, I don't know. It's just something that kind of feels eerie with me with this. I think it's mainly because this album came out months before Dimebag's death, you know? And it's kind of sad, really, when I listen to this album, you know. But I'll say this: there's some songs I actually quite enjoy. Like, as we know, the lyrical themes on this album is pretty much deal with the breakup of Pantera and how they don't really get along with Phil and Selmo anymore and such. So, yeah, I mean, it's alright. I mean, production kind of sucks, to be honest with you. It's kind of muddy, and Dimebag Darrell is way tuned down, like drop A or something like that, which is kind of way too drop tuned for a muddy-ish production. But I'll say this, there are some songs that actually do quite hit well. I mean, I do like the song "Fuck You," which features Corey Taylor from Slipknot. I mean, I may not be the fan of certain songs on this album, like "Save Me." I did not like this song very much, or "Soul Bleed," which features Zach Wilde. But and maybe Pride. Pride is okay, I guess. But there are some songs that actually do hit hard. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like Breathing Hard, Explode, Fuck You, Newfound Power. Those songs actually kind of hit. I'm not gonna lie. But as for the others, they're either kind of mid at best. I mean, again, this album is nowhere near as good as the Pantera, classic Pantera, trust me. I mean, I'm sure hardcore Pantera fans may enjoy this record. For me, in some sort of cases. So, yeah, guys, I'm feeling a 2.5 to 5 on this album. I mean, it's okay. It's just, I just kind of get depressed at times when I listen to this album because, I kind of feel sad when I hear this album because this is the last album that Vinnie Paul and Dimebag did together, as we know. And the Abbott brothers did not realize what's coming to them. Like, throughout the year 2004, they were touring throughout the world, throughout the country, throughout the world. And then on December 8, 2004, they faced a highly unexpected moment where a deranged fan named Nathan Gale snuck at the back of the building in Ohio, snuck up on stage, and just went after Dimebag and started shooting at him 4 times, killing him. And all hell breaks loose. And the fact that Phil gets blamed on it, even though Phil did say that Dimebag would killed, but I don't think he meant it as murder, And is it Phil's fault? Is Phil Anselmo the reason for Dimebag's death? No, it's not. I mean, I'll say this. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I honestly don't like Phil as a person that much, maybe because he's an asshole, and I just don't like the way he reforms Pantera, with same way what Rex Brown did. Well, I'll explain that later. But yeah, I mean, be honest with you guys, it's okay record. That's all I have to say. Alright guys, so that is my reviewing for every Pantera album. So what is your thoughts on every Pantera album? Let me know in the comments. So, now, about this Pantera reformation that Phil and Rex did, I mean, I get it, it's a tribute to Pantera, but I just wish they would call it something else, because when I think of Pantera, I think about Dimebag Darrell, like, Dimebag is basically the key member of this band, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't want a new Pantera album because Dimebag Darrell's the main man in this band, just like Eddie Van Halen with Van Halen or Tony Iommi with Black Sabbath and such with the guitar players. I pretty much explain not just like, lead vocals and such with like they say there can't be a Motorhead without Lemmy. There can't be a Megadeth without Dave Mustaine. There can't be a Foo Fighters without Dave Grohl or Nine Inch Nails without Trent Reznor. I kind of explained this thing with Linkin Park's new album, And without those bands, there's basically nothing. It's over. Like if Eddie Van Halen dies, as he did back in 2020, then Van Halen is over. It's over. There's no replacing him. Like and if Dave Mustaine dies, then Megadeth is over. It's kind of like how that works. And I just don't like, and be honest with you, the fact that Phil and Rex Brown reformed Pantera without the Abbott brothers, it's kind of disrespectful. Expect the fact that they didn't do this sooner, since Dimebag Darrell is dead, Vinnie Paul is dead, and then a few years later, Pantera's reformed. And I'm going to be honest, I may complain this back then, and I'm still going to complain it even to this very day. I think it's very disrespectful that they do that. I'm sorry. I kind of find it disrespectful. But anyways, guys, sorry for that little rant. That's all I have to say here. So what is your thoughts? Let me know in the comments. And I'm going to go ahead and get the fuck out of here. So I'm out.